Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Saturday, May the 3rd, 2025, and today's topic is going to be sketching freehand perspective. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day and I use timers to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. One thing is that it'll be on a blank page, which is always fun and exciting. And the other thing is that it'll be from imagination. However, a few days ago I was doing these studies, and then this was from studies from a sketch from imagination. So when I say things like from imagination, I think there is an actual thing which is from imagination, which is what I'll do today. But the other thing is that it's also from studying, which is like looking at some pictures and sketching from it, from reference. So they go together. I call it the Art of Sedone, or AOS triad, which is imagination, study, and style. But just to get warmed up, so yeah, we're gonna do sketching freehand perspective. Again, it could be any kind of perspective. I'll draw some figures and it'll be kind of inspired by those Gothic building sketches that I did, just because it's fresh in my mind. And so that's kind of like what I mean, where it's imagination, but its imagination is affected by the things that you are currently focused upon. Just to kind of get warmed up and get started, part of this is to see on the page here what fits on the camera. So right here, for example. So with these videos, one thing is I want part of it is the daily sketching routine. That's the main thing for me and maybe for others. The other thing is that it's the visuals. So maybe it's helpful for some people to kind of see a demonstration. So for example, I'm holding the pen pretty loosely. I'm going to just get warmed up by making a mark. So let's say that I start right here, and that's just for me to see, well, one, to get started on a blank page, and then the other thing is to see where the camera is. I'm holding it pretty loosely, which means I'm going to be using kind of my whole arm, and there's all these different, so that might be one of the things I'll go over. But this is the sketch stage, so I call this stage 1. So just to sketch something, I'm gonna look at where I'm gonna end up, over here. My eyes will be over here, and then my hands will just go towards it. So you could use a pencil. This is what happens when you're using a pen. But the main thing is just to get something down. This might be a good example of this, actually. So I'm gonna do that again. And that's kind of a good practice. And that's the sketch stage. And this is also helpful if you're sketching from life. Let's say I want to fix that a little bit because of the way it looks right there. This is so I did a video where I talked about different pen grips. So this would be the loosest grip. So maybe I'll just kind of stick with this for a second. So now I'm going to do an arch kind of thing. So again, this could be from life or imagination. Part of the inspiration is from the fact that I was doing those Gothic architecture sketches. So I'll just do another one real quick, and then you can kind of go the other way like this. So we're doing freehand perspective. So you're looking at some buildings or just anything, you can have these lines going all over the place because they're objects. They're not really lines, they're forms. So really any of these will work. So that's this loose grip. So again, you can use a pencil. It just shows up better with pen, and also it's practice for me. A medium grip would be kind of like this, and it's whatever works for you. This is just how I do it. So a medium grip is kind of at the middle, so maybe here. This is pretty loose, so you can kind of go like this. So I'm just gonna kind of freehand a little bit of perspective. Part of this is just to see where it shows up on the camera. So this is letting me know that that's the composition right there. Alright, so that's just to make marks and to like warm up. And then like the medium grip could be kind of like this. So this one is, and these are just ideas, they're just generally. So this one is sometimes good to restate like a line. So let's say I want to restate this line. So that'll be like a vertical kind of line. So same thing from earlier where I started here and I just looked at where I wanted to end up. Same with like right here. So I want to do this arch. So I'm just going to do that. That just sets up like the initial kind of line. Same thing like here. So I kind of accidentally created perspective. So that's kind of what I mean by like freehand perspective. Now that I did that, I can do another line kind of parallel right here. Say I want to end up like right here. So that's like a medium. It just comes in handy. Now, if you hold it like this, then that's like your detail. But like the detail is more like the handwriting. So I feel like most people like get that. So now that I have this much, and again, this was just mark making that ended up becoming like perspective. So now that we kind of have like a perspective, that's the thing I kind of wanted to talk about. If I'm not that sure, if you want to give yourself a little bit of some room in order to go back in and like do like a restatement, redraw the line like better, I would just use like kind of a loose grip. So let's say that I have this, like let's find the midpoint and then draw a line. So I'm just going to draw like this. I'm going to start to curve it. Like I'll find the halfway point again. So let's say that this is like, so let's say that that's right there and that's like this. Like you could just make that up right here. You can make up the angle. But once you make up the angle, then what you can do is find like the midpoint and eyeball sort of the angle, like the middle angle. And that's what I mean by like the freehand perspective thing. And then what happens is that you could have been looking at, you could either be imagining this, so this was just imagining it, which means that I spontaneously made some marks and then imagine that it's something. Or you could look at something and then just kind of, like you could be on location and just kind of sketch an arch. And then what happens is that the idea was from the thing you're looking at, but then now you have a drawing, and so off of your drawing. So like in other words, if you had put this down and then you had put this down and then you can find this, and then you would do the same thing here. You'd find the halfway point here, and just eyeball like where you think. I'll do like a loose grip, kind of like this. Like it's gonna meet somewhere. Kind of like that, like it's a... So basically the horizon's here because if this is the horizon line, or like the eye level, what it means is that anything above it, you're going to see underneath you're going to look upwards into it. And then anything below the horizon line, you're seeing like at the top of it. So that's how you can kind of freehand like that kind of thing. Once you basically have like a perspective, then you could use sort of a medium grip to just go ahead and do more definite lines, kind of like this. Now this one will have its own vanishing point, but you can keep it parallel, which is how you have like the 2-point or 3-point, because that's based upon like the way you know. It's based upon this, because that's where it's built. Like that's the actual form, and that'll get you like this side of the form. So that's one way to do that. So that's like the sketch. The other thing is, let's say you want to add some. So I like to keep things in steps. So I'm not going to worry about like the light and the dark just yet, because that can like throw you off. But one thing is, let's say you want to sketch in like details. You can find like the middle. It helps to find the middle. Like this. But then if you want to keep the like the details in perspective, you would find the middle again, like this. And so it'll be in perspective, because that's it gets closer right here. Kind of like this. Like if these were details. So that's true of like anything. So I'll just kind of leave that. The other thing would be, I can draw a person, or like a figure. We can decide that maybe a person is about this tall. So like right here to right here. So keep it pretty loose. That's kind of nice about these felt tip pens, is that if I do a loose grip, I can get a pretty faint line. So we can have the person stand right there. So yeah, this is figure drawing. I have a figure drawing playlist. So let's just draw a quick person here. So the person is also in perspective. And you can use a lot of times you can kind of eyeball the person, but you can think of it in terms of the torso. Helps to think of it in terms of like a box. So if this is the horizon, you really wouldn't see like too much of the top of the shoulders. So it's kind of like this. But then, for example, since it's below the horizon, you'll kind of see like the top of the feet. So yeah, you'll see like the top of the feet, because it's down here, because the horizon's up here, this is a good example of like the eye level. So it's like the eye level of this person looking. So they're looking here, but we are like the viewer of the scene. It's not really our eye level, it's really the eye level of whoever is actually like in the looking, or something like that. I don't know. It's just one of those things that kind of probably harder to explain than to just show. So that's one way to do that. Let's add some more like objects. So you could add maybe, well, one thing is like kind of like these little like perspective tricks. So what I mean by sort of eyeballing it, like I don't know that this arch is correct. I mean, it's correct like in the picture. Like it looks okay like in the picture. So another thing is for example, let's say you wanted to do, let's say like they're standing on some kind of like bricks and stuff, like stones on the ground. So we already established this. So then it's going up here. And let's say that this is some kind of, so we'll make this go to the same vanishing point. Like, so this is what they're standing on, like this kind of thing. So then if you find the middle right here, then you'll know that it goes to that vanishing point. So you have the middle, so then you'll have this. If you want to make it smaller, and then a lot of times maybe bricks could be, well, I mean, it's on the ground, so they don't really have to, they could actually be parallel like this. So that's how you get the perspective looking correct. Then the other question would be, what about like the horizontal? So this gives you that one, the vertical. But what about like this part? Like, how do you know like how big that one will be? I think that one, it's from, you could do this where, like, let's say you have this. I'm kind of making this up. Some of this is stuff like I kind of remember. Because a lot of these things I just sort of, it's like in the back of my mind somewhere, like in my memory. So one is like, you could have this corner, and then if it goes through this, and it goes through this, you could get that one. So you would get this shape right here in perspective. And then if you divide that in half, then you'll get like these, like it'll look in perspective, and that's your vertical lines. Like you could keep doing that. Like you could go from here to this one again. So you're getting this right here. Same thing. And then once it kind of gets pretty far, you can kind of fake it. Just make it look kind of close. Because it'll probably be like out of focus or whatever. To get like maybe shadows. So this is like the sketch. And then the next stage, as I like to call it, is like the light and shadow aspect. Because a lot of that is obviously like the mood. So I like the idea of the shadow being like right here. So you can keep kind of a loose grip and just lay down like the initial light and dark. So we're not talking, so shadows can also have like detail. So light and then dark. And then same with this, we'll just say that this person is in shadow. Then you can cast a shadow, and you can keep it simple. You can just say that this is the shadow. And again, this is just an artistic kind of thing because it maybe looks interesting to have this sort of shape. And then you could either keep detailing it and then trace over it, use it as a underdrawing. And then once you have this, you can have other shapes. Hopefully that made sense. And but that'll be it for today. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine, and let me know if you have any questions. If you want me to explore certain topics, I'll keep it in mind. And if you enjoy these videos, support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.